What if events went differently in the Spectacular Spider-Man? What if Peter Parker kept the Venom symbiote? Imagine a scenario where some of the events had unfolded differently. Welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse. My name is Max Charlebois, aka Miss the Part, and in today's What If scenario, we're going to be going over an alternate timeline where some of the events go differently, where the Spectacular Spider-Man chooses a different path, and he chooses the symbiote. Now, this story is going to be very interesting because we're finally going to see an alternate scenario where he ends up choosing Tombstone. Essentially, he chooses the big man, and this is going to be very interesting to dive into. So that being said, I do want to say thank you guys so much for all the latest support that you guys have been showing on this YouTube channel. The community has never been stronger, and it just really means a lot to me that we're continuously uploading content, and it's just so amazing to see. So again, if you guys are new to the channel and want to join the community, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. But that being said, my fellow watchers, you guys have been waiting years for this story. So let's dive in to the brand new episode. The sound of the church bell echoed through the empty hall, each toll vibrating deep inside Peter Parker's skull. The vibrations sent violent tremors through his body, each one more painful than the last. The black tendrils of the symbiote thrashed wildly, clinging to his skin, fighting tooth and nail to remain bonded with him. It screamed in his mind. It begged. It demanded. Peter gritted his teeth, his sweat mixing with the rain dripping from his torn mask. He clawed at the living black suit, trying to peel it away from his skin. His body trembled from exhaustion, but he refused to stop. Then he heard a voice. Peter. It was soft, familiar. A voice he had not heard in years. His breath hitched. His hands stopped moving. Slowly, he turned. Standing beneath the dim moonlight filtering through the stained glass window, Uncle Ben stood before him. Peter's entire body froze. His uncle's face was calm, but his eyes were filled with sadness. "You know this isn't right, son," Ben said gently, taking a step forward. "You're better than this." Peter felt a lump form in his throat. His hands trembled. His entire life he had lived by Ben's words. With great power comes great responsibility. But that phrase, it didn't make sense anymore. What had responsibility ever given him? He had tried to be the hero, the good guy, the one who saved the day. And where had that gotten him? He had failed time and time again. Aunt May had been hospitalized. Gwen had nearly died. Every villain he put away came back stronger. Being a hero wasn't enough. His fists clenched, his nails digging into his palms. His breathing turned ragged. Why should he let go of the one thing that made him strong? Why should he let go of his only chance to finally take control? Peter's lips curled into a sneer. His sorrow twisted into something darker. He looked into Uncle Ben's eyes, but for the first time, he felt nothing. "You're wrong," Peter muttered. Ben's face shifted slightly. His expression flickered with concern. "Peter, no," Peter snapped, stepping forward. His eyes burned with anger. "I've spent my whole life holding back. I've done everything I could to be a hero. And what has it gotten me? Pain, suffering, loss." His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. "I'm done being weak. I'm done losing." The symbiote, as if feeding off his emotions, began to tighten around his body, its tendrils pulsating with excitement. It could feel it. The doubt was gone. The hesitation had vanished. Uncle Ben took another step forward, desperation creeping into his voice. "Peter, this isn't you." "Shut up," Peter's voice boomed through the church, reverberating off the walls. Ben froze. Peter's chest rose and fell with each heavy breath. He turned his gaze away, gripping his own head, as the symbiote curled around his face, whispering to him in the back of his mind. He exhaled sharply. Then his body relaxed. When he lifted his gaze again, his eyes were pure black. "You're not real," he said. His voice was calm now, cold. Uncle Ben's expression twisted into shock. "Peter, no!" But before he could take another step, the illusion shattered. The church around him flickered, twisting into darkness, fading into nothing. Ben was gone, and Peter Parker was no more. A slow, twisted smile crept across Peter's lips. He turned toward the shadows of the church, where Eddie Brock lay crumpled against the cold stone floor. Eddie had seen everything. His eyes were wide with horror. He had watched as Peter had chosen the symbiote, rejected his own uncle. Eddie knew what this meant. Peter took a slow step forward, the symbiote crawling up his neck like a living shadow. His voice was barely above a whisper. "You wanted this power, Eddie." Eddie flinched, scrambling backward. Pete, don't..." Peter tilted his head slightly, almost curiously. "You were going to take this suit from me. Try to steal it. Try to become something greater than what you are." He crouched down, lowering his voice. "But you were never worthy." Eddie's breath hitched. "Please." Peter's fingers tightened around Eddie's throat, and then, with a sickening crack, he snapped his neck. For the first time in his life, Peter Parker took a life, and he felt nothing. The following nights were a blur of violence. Criminals across New York began disappearing. The streets, once filled with petty thugs, were now empty. Anyone who tried to rob, kill, or hurt innocent people was found broken, bleeding, or worse. Whispers spread in the underworld. This wasn't Spider-Man, this was something else, and Tombstone took notice. One night, as Peter perched on a rooftop, Tombstone stood waiting for him in an alley below. His suit was crisp, his stance calm, but his eyes were calculating. Well, seems like you finally wised up, kid." Peter dropped from the rooftop, landing with inhuman grace. His black suit gleamed under the streetlights. He said nothing. Tombstone smirked. "You've been busy and efficient. I like that." He clasped his hands together. "So, let me make you an offer." Peter narrowed his eyes. Tombstone's smile widened. "Work for me." Peter remained silent for a long time. Then, he smiled. A slow, cruel, almost amused smile. And he said, "I'm listening." New York had changed. The people could feel it. The city no longer belonged to them. At first, crime had vanished overnight. The thugs that once lurked in alleyways waiting for innocent people to pass by were gone. Drug dealers, gangsters, and low-level criminals disappeared without a trace. The streets, once filled with chaos, had become eerily silent, but the silence wasn't comforting. It was suffocating. Because the few criminals that remained, they spoke in whispers. Spider-Man isn't just stopping people anymore. He's killing them. The first confirmed victim was a mugger, found strung up by webbing outside a police station. His body was limp, cold, his skull caved in. No one had seen it happen. No one had heard his screams. The second was a gang leader, his body left hanging from a lamppost, his ribs shattered, his limbs twisted at unnatural angles. And then it became a pattern. Every night, another body. Every morning, another corpse found wrapped in black webbing. The Daily Bugle ran headlines faster than they could print them. Spider-Man, hero or executioner. New York's protector or its biggest threat. J. Jonah Jameson declares war on Spider-Man. I told you so. And soon, even the people who once defended Spider-Man stopped speaking up. Because deep down, they knew. This wasn't Spider-Man anymore. Peter didn't go home much anymore. At first, it was small things. He would disappear for days at a time, missing dinner, skipping school, ignoring calls from his friends. Aunt May, always patient, thought it was just stress. Maybe grief over what happened with Gwen. But then, she saw the blood on his clothes. She didn't say anything at first. She wanted to believe his excuses. Just a tough fight. It's not mine. I had to stop someone. But one night, she followed him. She didn't mean to. She just wanted to know where he went. And what she saw would haunt her for the rest of her life. Peter, drenched in shadows, standing over a man. His fists raining down blow after blow, the sickening crunch of bone breaking beneath his knuckles. The man begged, pleaded, and Peter, her Peter, never stopped. Aunt May gasped audibly, unable to contain herself. Peter's head snapped toward her. For the first time in his life, his aunt looked at him with terror. She didn't see her nephew anymore. She saw a monster. Peter didn't go home that night, but May was waiting for him when he finally returned. The house was dark. The only light came from the kitchen, where May sat at the table. A cup of tea sat in front of her, untouched. Peter, still in his black suit, stepped inside. He could tell this wasn't going to be a conversation. She looked up, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly. "Tell me it's not true." Peter stayed silent. Her voice rose. "Tell me, Peter." His jaw clenched. His fingers twitched. She already knew the answer. May stood, her voice shaking. "You killed that man. You killed him like an animal." Peter exhaled slowly. His voice was eerily calm. "He was scum. He would have done it again." May's breath hitched. "That's not for you to decide." Peter scoffed, shaking his head. "And who will, huh? The police? The justice system? You think that works? I've put criminals away 100 times and they always come back." His eyes darkened. "I made sure this one won't." Tears welled in her eyes. "You sound just like them." Peter froze. Her voice cracked, filled with raw grief. "You sound just like the men who killed Ben." Something inside Peter snapped. In a flash, his hand lashed out, gripping the edge of the kitchen table, and flipping it over. May gasped as dishes shattered, tea spilling everywhere. His voice came out as a guttural snarl. "Don't talk about him." She took a step back, and for the first time, Peter saw it. She was afraid of him. His own aunt, the woman who had raised him, who had loved him, afraid. He took a step forward. She took a step back. His stomach twisted. The rage in his body, the hunger of the symbiote, was demanding more. And if he didn't leave now, he might do something he could never take back. His fists clenched, his breathing sharp. Then, without another word, he turned and walked out. He never came home again. Peter wasn't the only one who saw opportunity in the chaos. Norman Osborn watched from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with interest. For years he had studied Spider-Man, plotted against him, and now he saw his greatest enemy turn into something far worse. But he also saw an opportunity. Tombstone ruled the underworld with an iron grip, but Tombstone wasn't insane. Norman was. So, he embraced the monster inside. He unleashed his full goblin persona. He abandoned the suit, the gadgets, the careful planning, and he became something else. He became the Goblin King, a true warlord, seizing power, spreading madness, rallying every psychopath in the city under his rule. Tombstone ruled with power, Norman ruled with fear, and Peter stood between them, caught in the war of monsters. New York was on the brink. The police were powerless. The people lived in fear. Tombstone's empire was cracking. The Goblin King was rising, and Peter was nowhere to be found. His old life was gone. His home, gone. His family, gone. His heart, dead. Now there was only the hunt. As the city spiraled into war, he watched from the rooftops, waiting for his moment. And when it came, he would end them all. New York was no longer the same city. The skyline still stood. The streets still bustled with life. But beneath the surface, it was rotting. Fear had become the law. The police no longer patrolled at night. It didn't matter. Criminals weren't afraid of them anymore. They were afraid of something else. Every night, another gang member disappeared. Every morning, another body was found hanging from black webbing, lifeless and broken. The kingpin of crime, Tombstone, was losing control. His empire was crumbling beneath him, his men scattered, too afraid to face what lurked in the darkness. And in the shadows, a warlord rose, the Goblin King. Norman Osborn had abandoned everything, his wealth, his influence, his corporate image. None of it mattered anymore. He ruled the streets now, his army of psychopaths and criminals growing by the day. The Green Goblin was no more. He had become something greater, something more monstrous. Tombstone tried to hold his empire together, but his strongest enforcer, Spider-Man, was nowhere to be found, because Peter Parker wasn't fighting for him anymore. He was fighting for himself. Peter didn't care about Tombstone. He didn't care about Norman Osborn. He didn't care about anything. The only thing that mattered now was the hunt. The city was his jungle. The criminals were his prey. Every night he stalked the streets, hunting the wicked, punishing the guilty. He didn't stop to think about the past. He didn't allow himself to remember. Because when he did, when he let the memories in, he could still hear Aunt May's voice. "You sound just like them." Even now, it made his stomach turn. But he pushed it aside. It didn't matter. She had abandoned him. They all had. So why should he care? The suit curled around him, whispering, feeding his anger. "You don't need them. You never did." Peter nodded to himself. The city was his. He just needed to burn away the filth. One night, Peter returned to an old rooftop, the same rooftop where he had once shared moments with Gwen Stacy. He didn't know why he went there. Maybe part of him, the part of him that was still Peter Parker, just wanted to remember. That's when he heard the voice. Peter. His body tensed. He turned, and there she was, Gwen. Her eyes were filled with something Peter hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. She took a step closer, hesitantly. "Peter, it's not too late." The symbiote pulsed around his body. It whispered, "She's trying to take you away from us." Peter's jaw clenched. "Gwen, leave." She didn't. She stepped closer. "I know you're still in there." Peter shook his head. "You don't understand." His voice was cold, emotionless. "I'm not your Peter anymore." Gwen's breath hitched, but she didn't back down. "Then why are you here?" Peter froze. The suit curled tighter around him, hissing in his mind. "Kill her. She doesn't believe in you. She'll betray you just like the rest." Peter's fingers twitched. He couldn't look at her. Gwen stepped forward again, placing a hand on his chest. The symbiote recoiled slightly. "Come back," she whispered. "Please." For a moment, the suit flickered. For a moment, Peter saw himself again. And then, a pumpkin bomb exploded between them. Peter's ears rang as he stumbled back. Smoke filled the rooftop, the air thick with the smell of burning debris. Through the haze, laughter echoed. "A touching moment," a voice sneered. Peter's eyes narrowed. Osborn. Through the smoke, the Goblin King emerged. This wasn't the old Norman Osborn. He had changed. His skin was paler, his muscles bulkier, his face twisted in a permanent monstrous grin. His armor was jagged, rusted, built from scavenged parts of old goblin gear. He didn't need his mask anymore. He had become the monster he always was. "I thought I'd drop by to see my old friend," Norman grinned. "And look at you, Spider-Man. You're just like me now." Peter's fists clenched. The symbiote raged. "Kill him. Rip him apart." Peter took a step forward. "You should have stayed in the shadows, Norman." Norman tilted his head. And then, he moved. Peter barely had time to react before Norman grabbed Gwen. She screamed as the Goblin King leapt onto the rooftop's edge, holding her by the throat. Peter's heart stopped. His mind went blank. The symbiote writhed, sensing his fear. Norman grinned wider. "Still have a weakness, don't you?" Peter took a step forward. Norman laughed and dropped her. Gwen's scream pierced the night. Peter dived. The world slowed. The wind rushed past him. His fingers stretched forward. The symbiote pulsed, extending his arm, forming tendrils, reaching. His hand caught hers. For a brief, blessed second, Peter thought he had done it. And then, the snap. Her body went limp. The life in her eyes faded. Peter landed, cradling her body. She wasn't moving, and she wasn't breathing, and he shook her. "Gwen?" No response. "Gwen, wake up." Nothing. "Please, please don't do this." She was gone. The symbiote pulsed, but Peter couldn't hear it anymore, because for the first time in a long time, he felt something again, and it was agony. Norman Osborn laughed from above. He didn't even try to run. He wanted Peter to come for him. And Peter didn't hesitate. He moved faster than he ever had before. By the time the night ended, Norman Osborn was dead, his skull crushed beneath Peter's fist. When the sun rose, New York belonged to Peter Parker. Tombstone was dead. The Goblin King was no more. The police had stopped trying to fight him. There was no point. Even J. Jonah Jameson had stopped writing his usual rants, because everyone knew. Spider-Man wasn't a hero anymore. He was something else. He was a god of vengeance, and there was no one left to stop him. And that is going to be it for What If Spectacular Spider-Man kept the Venom symbiote. Imagine if Peter Parker was possessed by Venom. It would have been very interesting to see, and honestly, I think that if he definitely would have taken that offer that Tombstone offered him previously, where he wanted him to work for him. I think he would have been a really cool enforcer, especially if he fully embraced the Venom symbiote. But that being said, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, let me know in the comments down below what you think of this video, and if you guys are new here, I would highly recommend that you also check out the Patreon, as well as becoming a YouTube member, as in doing so, it really goes a long way to helping the channel grow, and we can support a lot of these artists that work with us here at the Miss the Part channel, and also even working with us at Miss the Part Productions, where we continue to strive and really give you guys that immersive motion comic experience, with some of these episodes turning into motion comic books. So again, those funds would just really help out big time. But again, if you can't do that, your support really goes a long way, and I can't thank you guys enough. Like, seriously, from what I've seen in these past couple months has really been amazing, and I can't thank you enough. Seriously, like, it really means a lot. But that being said, my fellow watchers, thank you guys so much for tuning in for today's episode and being patient with this episode, because I've seen it time and time again, and it's finally here. So again, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and have an amazing day. Peace out.